Okay, so part one of a breakdown of Israel Adesanya. I'm going to focus on his takedown defense and his grappling in this first video. What makes his takedown defense and grappling so good is he's got great vision, great speed, great skill. He's tough mentally and physically. He's got fantastic footwork. Strength and conditioning is always on point, and that's what allows him to be so explosive with his takedowns and his takedown defense. You notice in his first fight, he throws a kick. The kick gets caught. His opponent tries to come and take him down. As his opponent's pulling on his leg, he should have stomped his hips backwards and tried to sprawl. Instead, what he kind of does here, he kind of beats it for a second, stomps his foot down to the ground, but then instead of sprawling his hips backwards when he's got his opponent's hands disconnected, he should have sprawled his hips backwards. Instead, what he does is kind of leaves his foot in place for just a split second, and his opponent takes advantage of that, and then he's able to push him against the fence. And then once he's against the fence, he looks like he's immediately trying to dig for an underhook, and that's great. That's what you want to do as soon as you're against the fence, but then he gives up on the underhook, and he decides to transition to throwing these ineffective punches against his opponent's head. That leads to a substantial amount of time spent against the fence. So really quick, I want to talk about kind of the one metric that I used for how good he got with his takedown defense. So he spent 4 minutes and 40 seconds defending takedowns in his first fight in the UFC with 6 scrambles total. So that's an average of 46.6 seconds. In his Kelvin Gastelum fight, so that compared to his 3 title fights, Kelvin Gastelum, he spent 2 minutes and 20 seconds defending on 10 total scrambles. That's an average of 14 seconds per. 0 clinches in the Whitaker fight, and then 30 seconds in the Yoel Romero fight with 4 attempts with an average of 7.5 seconds per. So his defensive wrestling got substantially better as he progressed against increasingly talented wrestlers. Now those are rough averages, and depending on how you look at the scrambles, it might change the time, but the net result would be the same. Basically what I'm saying is that in a relatively short period of time, he quickly improved his takedown defense against higher level wrestlers. So that's one of the things that make him so great, not just at his defensive wrestling, but in general, he's so great. That's my timer, I'm supposed to be doing burpees. But in general, he's so great because his ability to learn and implement at a high level so quickly. You're going to hear another timer in about 30 seconds because I'm supposed to do them for a minute nonstop. But anyways, so in his first fight, he spends a lot of time against the cage. So now he doesn't dig for an underhook, but that's the thing that gets him off the cage every time when he gets to that situation is once he figures out, oh, I need to dig for an underhook, then he's able to get off the cage. The biggest difference I notice in this fight is that he accepts his position here. So when he's against the cage, he accepts the fact that he's against the cage, and he just starts throwing those ineffective strikes against his opponent. And that's the biggest transition that you'll notice between his first fight in the UFC and then his 3 title fights, is that in his 3 title fights, he doesn't even for a second accept the position. Yep, and that I'm supposed to be done with him. Anyways, he doesn't for a second accept the position of being against the cage, and he fights it from the second that he's attacked. He fights it. In this fight, he kind of accepts it for a few seconds. I think he wasn't as comfortable with his grappling. He kind of forgot what he was supposed to do. Digging for an underhook was kind of tough, so he gave up on it a couple of times. So you'll notice again, once he digs the underhook, he's able to kind of get off the fence a little bit, but not quite. And he's still scrambling here, coming along. And again, once you get that underhook, what you can do with that is you can elevate with the underhook to get your opponent to elevate your opponent so they're not on your legs, and then turn and elevate as you twist. Or you can use that underhook to grab the back of their lat and pull. So you can either elevate and use the underhook side to push and the overhook side to pull, or you can pull with the underhook side on their lat and use the overhook side to just kind of help leverage as you spin and switch positions with them, and put them ideally against the cage, and you can get off. Again, so he digs the underhook, and then he's able to, for a split second, he's able to get out of there. Now, in this position, what he should have done is, again, sprawled his leg back. Use that strong hamstring and kick that leg back. He's fighting just one hand in this position. He could have beat that hand if he'd just sprawled his hips backwards. But he decides to turn away. And when you decide to turn away, that gives them a little bit more of an opportunity when they're up on the knee. That gives them an opportunity to grab. You can turn away when they're down by the ankle, that's fine, and push on the head. But when you turn away when they're on the knee, then that'll happen. They'll pick your leg up, they'll put you back against the fence. So again, this scramble continues for a while until finally, again, he gets the underhook, and then once he has the underhook, he's able to start to get off the fence a little bit, and then it turns into a scramble again. Scrambling. And then he finally digs, gets the underhook, and this time he's able to elevate with the underhook, twist, off balance his opponent for just a second, and that gives him space, and then he's able to get off the fence. And that's why the underhook is so vital when you're against the fence. So again, his opponent catches a kick, tries to take him down with it, follows him down, he spins, somersaults out of it, and then that turns into a scramble again against the cage. And that lasts for, about a minute or maybe a little bit more. And then finally, the end of the round comes, but he had his back against the cage the entire time. The next round, he comes out, he's a little bit sharper. His opponent shoots, and he sprawls back. Notice how he's got that, he kicks back with that leg, and that's what you should do. He sprawls his hips back quickly, kicks that leg back, and he easily defends that takedown because that was a really good sprawl. And then again, his opponent shoots. This time he's down on the foot, so in this position it's okay to turn away. When they're down that low on the foot, turns away. That's the proper defense right there to get out of that one. Okay, opponent's pushing him against the fence again. Again, he's pummeling. He should be pummeling for the underhook. And once again, this is something we don't see in his later fights, where he just kind of accepts being against the cage, and he starts throwing strikes against his opponent. In his later fights, he's always immediately digging for an underhook and trying to get off the cage. Now he finally gets an underhook, and then as soon as he gets the underhook, he's able to create just enough space to start to get out of there, and he's able to break the contact there and get away. Again, so his opponent shoots on him, and he kicks his legs back, and that's what you should do. Your hips should float, basically. You should you make them carry your weight with your chest and your hands, and your hips should float backwards, so they have no chance of grabbing your legs. And that's the final takedown in that particular fight. So you see he knows kind of what to do with the takedowns, but it's a matter of execution in that first fight in the UFC. And then he really stepped his game up against Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum shoots here. He's got good, look at that wrist control, got great wrist control, making sure he can't connect his hands, pushing down on the head, turning away, getting his foot out. Great takedown defense right there. Immediately in the first shot, you notice there's a big difference between that and his first fight in the UFC. Kelvin shoots again. He frames with his elbow on the side of Kelvin's neck, pushing down on his hands, pushing his hips backwards. As soon as he breaks one hand, he's able to swivel his hips just a little bit. As soon as he breaks one hand off his hips, then he slides the other hand, the hand off his hips, pushes his hips back, and then stands up immediately right after that. Great takedown defense, and again, a massive improvement from his first fight. This one, Gastelum gets deep on a double leg here, and he's able to take him down, but immediately he pushes to the cage, gets to the cage, uses the cage as a weapon to his advantage. He pushes Kelvin off with his feet, and then he stands up quickly. Then we're looking at the next one here. Kelvin comes in, clinches, he's got double overhooks. Boom, look, he digs that underhook immediately now. It's not like that first fight where it took forever. He gets that underhook, and then he spins off the cage. So he's learned his lesson, and he got a lot better at it. Kelvin's shooting in, trying to get a takedown here. Here he's got wrist control, and he does kind of a little face rip to create space and get off the cage. I like this a lot. It's an interesting technique. He cranks on, he uses his right hand, wraps it around, cranks on Kelvin's chin while he's got wrist control, and then slides his hips out and escapes from the open side. Kelvin shoots again. Good takedown defense, sprawls his hips wide here, defending well. Threatens, it looks like he threatens with a guillotine here or something. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but Kelvin basically gives up on the takedown and pulls his head out, and then immediately he shuffles out from the cage. Kelvin shoots again, wide stance, got his hips back. Look at that, the difference though in his overhook here. This is a good defensive overhook. He's controlling Kelvin's upper body with that overhook. It's a little bit different than the shallow kind of, it's a deep overhook, whizzer. That's different than what he was using in his first fight in the UFC. Again, his grappling defense and his grappling knowledge came a long way since his first fight. It just highlights, again, his skill and his ability to learn quickly and implement at a high level. You can't really have a highlight of this fight without including his line, "I'm not afraid to die." That was one of the most badass things I've ever seen in sports. Kelvin shoots again. Looks like he goes head outside single, and look at that, attacks the guillotine right off the bat. Yep, supposed to be doing burpees again. Attacks the guillotine right off the bat, and twists him to the ground, ends up in a dominant position on the ground. Then that turns into a scramble, but then right in the scramble, immediately locks up a triangle here, throws his legs up for a triangle. This was pretty close. If he would have been able to just do a few things differently, that might have actually been the thing that finished the fight. But just how quickly he transitioned. Never in these scramble situations does he accept a position like he did in that first UFC fight. It's always a fight to win from every single position that he's in here. And then I think this might be the final takedown. Nope, it's not. So he shoots in from here, gets the underhook on the left-hand side, swivels off the fence. So again, much better work with that underhook against the fence in these later fights. Gastelum's pushing, got him against the fence, and I think this is, yeah, he just kind of, let's see here. So he throws elbows. Gastelum tries to pull to get him out, but Gastelum's pretty much just exhausted at this point. So Gastelum kind of gives up on the takedown. He digs that, yeah, he kind of does dig a little bit of an underhook there, creates separation and just shuffles out. But Gastelum at that point was just exhausted. Now we're looking at the Yoel Romero fight. There was, I think, 4 engagements here, an average of 7.5 seconds, but that's from start to finish. Realistically, there were shorter time frames than that. Yoel kicks, clinches, throws some punches, but Yoel's not really going for the takedown here. He's just clinching, so I just wanted to see how he dealt with Yoel's clinch. He turns his back to the cage. He notices that he can't be looking away from Yoel like that, so he turns his back to the cage, puts his hands up as a guard, and then Yoel kind of gives him a little bit of space, and he shuffles off. The next one, Yoel shoots down for a takedown. I like how he posts on Yoel's head and keeps his right hand high until he's 100% sure that it's going to be a takedown, because it might be an overhand, or as he shoots down, he might be also throwing a punch up top. So I like how he keeps his right hand high as Yoel reaches down towards his leg. Yoel is actually able to get him down just for a quick second, and then he uses the cage and immediately pops back up to his feet. Posts out on his left hand, creates a 3-point stance, and pops back up to his feet, and then shuffles out from the cage. And then Yoel shoots again. Again, really good sprawl. Gets his hips back, good position with that left overhook there. Sprawls his hips back and to the side, and then stands back up quickly and shuffles out from the fence. More like sprints out from the fence. And then I think this is last takedown. So Yoel grabs, looks like he's going for an inside trip here, where normally you sag your head to the same side as the overhook and try to trip. But I like how, as he tries to do it, Israel frames with that hand there on the throat of Yoel and creates enough space, and then just picks his right leg up and steps it back. Really great takedown defense against a high-level wrestler, and shuffles out from the cage. So I really just wanted to highlight here how good Israel Adesanya was with his learning, his ability to acquire a skill and then implement it at a high level against increasingly tough opponents. He's just got an incredibly good IQ, and probably an incredibly high IQ, my guess anyways. Just really good at implementing those things. Got great vision. He can see when the takedown attempts are coming. He's got very fast speed for this takedown defense. Again, he's tough. You know, he can gut it out a little bit. And then his strength and conditioning and footwork play a big role in how quickly he's able to get out of those tough situations. So those are part of the things that I think make him such a great fighter. Again, that's just focusing on his takedown defense, just looking at his first fight in the UFC and then his 3 title fights for a metric as some sort of a comparison. Israel Adesanya is just a fantastic fighter, great fighter. And then I think in part 2, what I'm going to do is look at his striking and try to analyze what you could do if you had to fight Israel. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys like it.